It is the Jim and Terry Show coming to you from sunny Bobcaygeon. I'm one of your hosts, Terry, and the other seat is unoccupied at the moment, so come back later if you want to hear Jim and I duke it out, battle it out, or come to some agreement. In the meantime, what am I talking about? It's the question of, are apples and oranges worth comparing? Or do you have to have apples and apples? What's this all about? Well, it's about a question that I asked Google Gemini. Please tell me a little bit about Bernie Moreno, the used car salesman with a record of wage theft and employment discrimination, versus, in the congressional investigation of Anthony Fauci, the director of National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases from 1984 to 2022, the guy who helped resolve the AIDS, HIV crisis, the guy who served how many different, 5 different presidents, whether they were Republican or Democrat, doesn't matter. Compare these two things. Is it apples to apples or apples to oranges? In which case, the witch hunt takes shape when you don't have things that belong together in the same room. One of these things doesn't belong, and it's the political class. The people who are now taking directions from the Orange Jesus and trying to make things heat up, relitigating the COVID-19 crisis. But in this case, I'm interested simply in the F-bomb that Bernie Moreno dropped. Who the F do you think you are? Really? Do you know who you, the F, are addressing? So I thought it'd be worth taking a deep dive into the character assassination that went on during the so-called inquiry, where the willing participant was invited via subpoena, so you cannot refuse, and pled the Fifth Amendment. But I'm more interested in this whole thing in terms of what Google Gemini was telling me when it said, well, the statement you provided about used car salesman record and wage theft and employment discrimination versus Anthony Fauci is really having nothing to do with one another. It has zero direct significance that one person is this and the other person is that. And I said, really? Really? I'm not sure, Google Gemini, that you have assessed fully in terms of competencies of an inquiry versus the one being subjected to an inquisition, and the possible relationship of one salesman, Moreno, selling a line of vengeance directed from another incompetent salesman, Donald J. Trump. Well, it seems as though once I framed it that way that, evaluating that scenario of Fauci and Moreno through the lens of institutional competencies, power dynamics, and political alignment, surely reframes how these figures interact. Well, there we go. So even Google Gemini tends to have an affirmation bias, confirmation bias, and you have to tell it, prove me wrong all the time. Otherwise, it will kiss your ask me no questions. It will do whatever you tell it to do, and it'll come up with ways to support whatever craziness you're trying to foist on people. You've got to tell it to prove you wrong. And until you do that, it will kiss your royal hiney. And that's just a case in point when I examined Moreno versus Fauci. And to frame it another way, Dr. Anthony Fauci's institutional competency is rooted in decades, 40 to 50 years of specialized scientific administration, research, and management of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases across multiple presidencies, multiple administrations, and eventually having the Presidential Medal of Freedom awarded to him. Whereas Moreno, well, his background as a private sector luxury car dealer and businessman. It equips him with, scratch my head, check my notes, commercial and sales competencies. Oh yeah, that'll work well in an inquisition where all you have to do is not be rational or competent. All you have to do is sell, sell, sell. And what are you selling? How about Fauci is to blame? How about Rand Paul's? All I want to do is see this guy locked up. Okay, so Moreno is a willing co-conspirator in Rand Paul's and Trump's machinations, trying to leverage their base to stoke the fire of an inquisition. A witch hunt, I tell you, by any other name. Well, the salesman dynamic versus directed vengeance is how Google Gemini assigned Bernie Moreno and Donald Trump. Through the shared lens of commercial sales background, highlights a highly transactional, that means quid pro quo, buddy, give me this and I'll give you that, message-driven political style. Both Moreno and Trump entered politics from business backgrounds centered on persuasion. Do you remember The Art of the Deal? And other famous, how about Trump Steaks? How about Trump University? High-stakes pitching. When will people stop believing the trumped-up stuff and just start listening with their ears and watching with their eyes? The alignment of vengeance is Trump's particular Trump 2.0 way of looking at life. Trump's persistent grievances. You know, he blamed Fauci ever since Fauci dared correcting him on UV lights and bleach and ivermectin. And he's, I think even Fauci's diary, if I'm not mistaken, had words demeaning the president, because he truly was, as we heard with our own ears and eyes during the beginning of COVID, he was downplaying the whole thing. It's nothing. It'll be over soon. There's only one person in China. That's it. Don't be alarmed. Meanwhile, a 5-alarm fire is raging through CDC, and the whole process of keeping people safe in the United States was being poo-pooed, while Trump's trying to tell people it's all about the stocks. We can't tell the people. Don't tell the people. We knew the risk. We didn't tell them. Why? So the stock market would not be affected. Who has shares in the stock market? Well, very few. Probably about 10% have stocks. Less than 1% actually make their living off of stock trading. And so who is Trump catering to when he says, I don't want to adversely affect the stock market? He's talking about his buddies in bad times. The buddies who may be mentioned, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, in the Epstein files. Allegedly. And then so it goes on. We have all kinds of things that we need to deal with in terms of Fauci and his performance, his Fifth Amendment. Is he going to be memed now as being Fifth Amendment Fauci? FAFO? Fauci around and fifth out thing, always trying to do a gotcha, always trying to just say what they're going to say so they can slice it and put it on any one of the social media platforms that they happen to use. And whether that is Rand Paul's, all I want to do is have him in jail behind bars. I mean, when that's the head of your jury, that's some fair thing going on there. It's a witch hunt by any other names, and in the 16th century, they would have described it as such. You've got the verdict already in your mind. You're not looking for evidence. You are just using this as an opportunity to smear somebody. And this is where we get to institutionalizing the political process as a weapon, where you're going to use it to character assassinate people's reputations. Again, without evidence, without proof. There's been no trial. There's been no charges laid. There's just hearsay and circumstance and rumors and innuendo, and people just want something. They want a head on a pike. They want a fire. They want something. They want to be able to point the finger and wag their tongues and say, aha, they did it. They're to blame. Well, maybe the people conducting this thing should be under investigation too, from Moreno on to Rand Paul. Rand Paul got his certification from a board of ophthalmologists that he formed himself with his father-in-law. How's that for reputational damage control? It could go on and on. Again, check out your sources for yourself. You don't have to believe me. Who am I? Just retired guy Terry with my retired guy friend Jim in absentia, and we are just two retired guys mulling over what we heard on the way to the Jim and Terry show. What have you heard? Can we save America from its own demise, from its own greed, from its own corruption? Drain the swamp, you say? Well, somebody's got to pull the plug. What will that look like? How will America recover? Many more questions on the Jim and Terry show. Signing off. Bye-bye.